Oh, well, what do you know? There you go. I guess we're ready to go then. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Rising and Doc Reads. As you know now, my name's Tom D'Agostino, and my wife Arlene and I are authors of 18 books on ghosts, haunts, legends, and all the other stuff of New England. We have a table next to Doc Echoes, which I have been a guest on. One of our latest books, which I found to be really awesome, is New England's Haunted Route 44. We did a lot of research, and more than that, actually. I grew up on Route 44. I've lived on Route 44 my whole life, just about, and every time I moved, I was almost right off of Route 44. So I know Route 44. It's 237 miles long, and it's got a large array of haunts and legends, some of the most awesome. We can't go over all of it, but this might help, spark some interest if you want to get the book. It's a road trip. It's a haunted road trip. That's what makes it so cool. We actually had two businesses, one right on Route 44 and one that's on Route 44 right now, a music complex, family businesses. So, yes, we know our 44. Let's see. This starts in Plymouth. We're going to start in Plymouth. It starts in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and there are several haunts there. This is a couple that we're going to get into. One is the burial ground, which is kind of interesting. I don't know how many people have been to Plymouth before. Pretty awesome place. The burial ground actually was where the old fort was after King Philip's War. They put King Philip's head on a post, and it stayed there for 20 years. Some people say 25, but anyway. During the Revolution, the Benedict Arnold was stationed out there, and it actually sank in a storm, but not all the way, just enough so the people were in about waist-deep water, freezing water, because it was right near Christmas. It just happened to be in the same time that Benedict Arnold turned traitor that night. The crew they couldn't get to shore. They finally had to build an ice dam to get the crew out, brought them to this courthouse here, and when a lot of them did die, some survived. When Captain McGee, James McGee, later on, when he died, he was buried in the mass grave. He wanted to be that way. His ghost, and people, they see figures around that grave. It's in the corner of the cemetery. The ghosts of Thomas and Elizabeth Spear visit their daughter Ida there, who died in the 1860s. People see them walking up the walkway just kind of from behind the John Carver Inn, which is also haunted. Then a lot of people say they get these feelings while they're in the cemetery. I don't know how many people know about puckwudgies. They're an indigenous demon that they say is there also. Mother Crew, Thomas Howland actually took some land from Mother Crew, who was a witch. And she said, "You can have my land because it's not going to do you any good. Within a day, you're going to be dead." Well, he's like, yeah. Goes riding through the cemetery. His horse throws him, and he was killed. There's some cool stuff there in the museum, a horse-drawn hearse and stuff. The Spooner House is another place. You can actually go tour this house, and they have it on their lantern tour because, first of all, it was in the Spooner family from 1754 to 1954, and it's part of New England homes. One time, there's a little girl in there. She's buried in the Plymouth Cemetery, too. Abigail Townsend. She died of an infected tooth. Okay, and she was part of the family. Well, she still stays there. She still lives there, basically. One of the more famous things, we even talked to the workers about it, they were going in to do work on this Spooner house, and they knocked on the door, and this little girl let them in. And they called, all of a sudden, the guy on the cell phone goes to the guy who was supposed to let him in, "You don't have to come here. The little girl let me in." And they're like, "What little girl?" "Oh, the little girl in the house." He goes, "We don't have any little girls in the house. This is a museum." Well, they started looking around, and the girl went into a room and never came out and never went by them. When they do the tours, one of the girls on the tour, she got to touch the back of her shoulder, and she sees this little girl. And the little girl goes, "I got to go now," and runs around the corner of that alley. The lady goes, "Wow, that is so cool having, this little girl on the tour to scare you." He goes, "It's 10 o'clock at night. We don't have kids on a tour at 10 o'clock at night." Well, a few other people have seen her. She likes to play tricks and hide. We've been there. We never saw her, unfortunately. I'm in Middleborough, Massachusetts, right on the corner of Route 44, is the Oliver House. This was on a few television shows. I'm sure you've seen it. We were in there. We did some really cool pictures, and it was really cool about all the period stuff. It was built in 1769, but it was also built where indigenous burial ground is. So a lot of that land, they figured there's over 1,500 burials on that property. People have seen a woman on the staircase. They think it's Sally Oliver, one of the original owners of the house. So Sally Oliver still haunts the house. They hear conversations, voices. They still see apparitions walking by the windows. And a long time ago, one of the earlier people of the house used to talk about the big tree in back, about these little gremlins or spirits living in the tree. And she actually painted a wall with a picture of the tree and the gremlins in the house. So if you go to visit that, and it's another one you can visit, actually you can even rent it for the night and do paranormal investigations. Yep, it's called the Oliver House in Middleborough, Mass. Look at that. Rehoboth, the Phantom Hitchhiker. How many people don't know about the Phantom Hitchhiker? I know, yeah. I used to drive down 44 to Middleborough, Mass, because when we owned a bait and tackle shop, we had to get the shiners, the fish, and the bait. And I'd go from Smithfield, Rhode Island, all the way down Route 44 past this place, and I never seen a hitchhiker. If I did, I probably don't even remember. But anyway, Rehoboth was part of Cumberland was once part of Rehoboth anyway. But this is one of the most famous ghosts of Route 44, it seems. There people see him, about 40 years old, disheveled hair, plaid shirt, looking like a farmer. They think he was hit by a car, but nobody knows for sure. However, many people have stopped to give this guy a ride. He gets in the car, and they're going down the road, and they look over, and the seat's empty. Oh, boy. They also, sometimes they'll stop and they'll open the door and they'll look back because the guy was coming toward the car and there's nobody there. Some people have heard laughter, sinister laughter. Some people have actually hit him. Drove right through him like, lock up, and there's nobody there. The ghostly hitchhiker, one person said he was doing 50 miles an hour one time and he saw the face of the hitchhiker in his window, passenger window, grinning at him. Well, that's pretty cool. I mean, he must be a fast runner then. We have, come on, there we go. This is some more places that are right off Route 44. You have Anawan Rock, where Chief Anawan actually surrendered, thus ending the war, King Philip's War, totally. And his ghost is said to be on that site, or in some of his warriors. They said that they fought, but there was no real fight. Yet they surrendered right away. They were just tricked and couldn't even fire a shot. They couldn't even get to their rifles. So they think that he's all, pissed off and saying, okay, we're going to still stay here and fight. Because they hear the term Ayutash, which means stand and fight or fight stoutly. And he was known to have been screaming it in the Battle of Mount Pope area. The Shad Pond factory, a factory burned down. This is the remains of it. You can still go to the pond and see it. There's haunted by a man who looks wearing shabby clothing, like work clothing. The school, right there, in the middle there, the Hornbein School, before they blocked those windows, a lady was taking pictures of it while it was closed, and she saw what looked like people inside. Well, it's been boarded up for years. Another guy was taking pictures. He walked up to the window, and he saw a school teacher with some children. She looked at him, and he backed up thinking, whoa, am I interrupting something? And when he looked back in there, it was empty. So people in the neighborhood still hear the bell ringing like they're just calling the kids into school. The Palmer River Cemetery, these are all within like a few miles of each other, incidentally, is haunted by, some people say, a black dark demon. This is really cool because we've visited it many times, and there's a child who haunts it, and it's got a lot of old Revolutionary Civil War graves, so there's a soldier there too, but people have actually said they filmed this dark shadow moving through there that's very negative. How many people have been to Rehoboth and you've seen any of these? Pretty cool places. They're not far from here. Where's Rehoboth? It's about 2 towns over. Taunton, Rehoboth. And the Bridgewater Triangle. How many people know that one, huh? Bridgewater Triangle, yeah. Oh, did you? All right, yeah. That's quite a place, huh? I could spend all day on this alone. Look at all the towns it encompasses, many strange creatures. We have like police sergeants and other kind of really people who wouldn't lie like that because their job might count on it, and say, oh, this guy's crazy, get him out of here. Well, they actually have seen things. One of them, like he said, he saw Thomas Downey saw a giant thing they thought to be a thunderbird. Now, the indigenous people, it's called Bird Hill because, yes, they thought there were thunderbirds there. There was other creatures within this area. 3 boys once followed some 3-toed footprints into the swamp, and there they saw this thing just go straight up. Another funny one is, where is it? Oh, there, right here. Bigfoot sightings. There's a guy who was mapping it out. Lauren Coleman mapped out the triangle a long time ago. But this guy, Mr. Andrade, has been looking for the Bigfoot in this area ever since he saw it, John Andrade, many years ago. 2 officers were sitting there on patrol, and all of a sudden, the back of their car lifted off the ground. They just spun it around, and they saw this creature running behind a building. They didn't follow it, but I guess good thing, right? So this is one to look up. Look it up, the Bridgewater Triangle, because we could spend all day on that alone. This is all Route 44. In fact, when you go, campers, they were out camping there in the Bridgewater Triangle area. The Hockomock Swamp, that's one of the most, that's like the big congested place for haunts and cryptids and all kinds of things. Well, anyway, they had this giant log thrown at them, and they were like, whoa, they ran. They didn't know what was going on. They went back the next day to gather their stuff, which was under the log. The 3 guys could not move the log. That's how big it was. Yes, giant snakes, dogs, and the ever-famous pukwudgie, the indigenous little guy like this who lures people to their deaths. Okay, and a lot of people in this area said they've seen the pukwudgie before. In fact, it's so common, they put a pukwudgie crossing sign. So if you see the pukwudgie crossing sign, slow down, you don't want to hit one. Providence, Rhode Island, where's that? Well, Providence, as you know, they have the Tour and Benefit Street and everything here, but there's a lot of places in this city that are haunted, even from way the beginning of Providence, from North Providence, all the way out. But one of the 2 things that are really cool is that Edgar Allan Poe was engaged to Sarah Helen Whitman there, and they got engaged in a cemetery up on the Benefit Street area, and it was called off in 1848 because he got very drunk and showed up at her house, and lashing insults and everything. His ghost is seen, they were very fond in the Athenaeum, his ghost is sometimes seen walking toward that house, which was Sarah Helen Whitman's. Edgar Allan Poe was not an alcoholic. He wasn't a drunk. He just could not handle his liquor. You give him 1 beer, and it was like that movie Blind Date with, remember Kim Basinger, he'd be swinging from the chandeliers and stuff. So he wasn't an alcoholic, which would probably make it seem like he was. And one time somebody said they were walking by the Athenaeum, and they saw a man sitting there, almost sleeping, and he thought there was something wrong with him. So he woke him up and goes, "Are you okay?" And the man goes, "I was dreaming of the conqueror worm. Thank you for waking me up." He started walking. He goes, "Maybe the guy needs help." And he turned around from like here to the speaker over there, and the guy was gone. So Edgar Allan Poe is haunting Providence. According to records, so is H.P. Lovecraft. Howard Phillips Lovecraft was born. In fact, there's a lot of stuff on H.P. Lovecraft. If you go in later, Jim Dyer has it. His grandfather and grandmother were C.M. and Muriel Eddy. They were Lovecraft's best friend. So he has a lot of stuff from him. But he lived in several houses in Providence. He lived in New York for a short while, but he got divorced, moved back here, and he died here in 1937. Very painful cancer. And he haunts the observatory. I don't know if he haunts some of the private homes, but his face is seen in that observatory. Every year around the time of his death, the Colin Keith Johnson hosts a really cool Lovecraft tribute where they do a lot of Lovecraftian stuff, and then they go visit the grave in Swan Point Cemetery. Now, Lovecraft, that grave, it says, I am Providence. He didn't make that grave. That was put there in 1968. He had no marker before that. Okay, he was buried in the Phillips plot, which was his family. And also, Colin Keith Johnson are related to him. They're first cousins twice removed. They were the twins on Ghost Hunters, incidentally. Now we're in Smithfield. This is great. In Smithfield, they have the Resolve Waterman Tavern. That's right on Route 44. They just finished redoing this place. It was huge. It was a big, big tavern built in 1741, but they tore a whole chunk of it off when they widened Route 44, okay, in 1936. So it became a private home, the home of Bessie Fish. When she gave it to Cumberland Farms after she passed, it was willed to them. The place was a wreck, but there's a big, wicked story behind it, and that was a peddler. The place was always busy. It was a hopping joint in town. And one night he came and he wanted somewhere to stay in Resolve Water, and being a nice guy, he goes, it's totally full, but if you don't mind sleeping in the cellar. Okay, so he goes, yeah, sure. So he had some drinks with all the guys, you know, and the people at the bar and everything, and he goes downstairs brings all this stuff downstairs, and the next day he never comes back up. Where is he? They don't know. They never found him. So they're looking around and Resolve goes, uh-oh. What? I think he fell in the well. In the dark, he was probably looking around, and he fell into the well. So what do? They sealed up the well. After that, his ghost was seen constantly. They even drew pictures of him because they recognized who he was, and the pictures hung over the tap room forever. It became the Smithfield Exchange Bank, and then it became very decrepit. And I grew up about a quarter mile from that, and I can tell you how decrepit it is because we used to break in and party. And then one time, one of my friends disappeared. Not mysteriously, he fell through the floor. That's when we stopped going in there. Then we go into Chepachet, and all these places are haunted. This is so amazing. I love this picture here. This is an old postcard. Check this out. That's an old postcard of the trolley. I don't know what that is, but it looks pretty weird, huh? Brown Hopkins is haunted by a little girl and a woman. The Stone Mill is haunted by a child because that was a mill. The Town Trade is haunted by the Slocum family. Katie's is haunted by, that's up further. In fact, that's where H.P. Lovecraft stopped to get refreshments on their trip to look for Doc Swamp. But the Tavern on Main in the middle is one of the most haunted places in the region. In fact, it's so haunted that we do Dining with the Dead, ghost hunt events there. We're doing 2 or 3 of them in October, and you can call the tavern for the reservations. And this is an old picture. See, there's me on the landing right there. Anyway, the tavern, we get calls every week. There was a lot of things that took place. A lot of people died in it. A woman was tragically killed. And another person who worked there, this is kind of cool. See, that light used to sit right here, and he was tragically killed in an accident. A friend of ours, I said, you got to go there one time. And he goes, this guy was huge, Dave. He was a huge man. And he used to sit there after his shift. He didn't drink alcohol, but he'd just sit and talk to the people. And my friend sat there while he was sitting there. This arm comes down like this. He goes, oh, sorry, excuse me. He turned around and nobody was there. This picture right here, see the wispy figure? This was during one of our ghost hunt dinners. I saw that figure. We were like, whoa, what is that? The lady using the dowsing rods. I go to my friend Jim. Yeah, I got to show you this because I show him everything. He's a former Smithfield and Cranston police detective. In 1973, a state police, went into there and shot his girlfriend. And she died right where that misty figure is. Okay? So I go to him, I said, you got to see this. It's right where everything happened. He goes, really? He goes, when did you take this? I go, Thursday, November 17th. He goes, really? He goes, that was the night the guy got paroled. So that was pretty cool. Now, this right here, I'm going to play this. If you look at this piece of paper, we put the papers, like the little programs down. Look at this piece of paper. Nothing else moves. Play it again, one more time. You see the piece of paper moves like somebody brushes it aside, but there's nobody in that room. You can hear the people in the kitchen. It was the only one, which is kind of interesting. So we've gotten a lot of ghost voices from this place. Arlene, we were in the tap room at 10 o'clock at night doing a thing. There's a ghost of a child. He's seen in the bathroom, and actually one of the people who worked there, Deb, she had a boyfriend who had a daughter who went in that bathroom because it's a ladies' room, and she's talking to somebody. So the guy goes, "Who are you talking to?" She goes, "My friend here. He wants to come home with us." He opens the door, and there's nobody there. She's insisting on it. When we were doing an interview, I was doing an interview for a newspaper. I came in about 11 in the morning, and Dave loved it. He goes, there's a stove not past here, and the interviewer got there early, and she goes, she don't know what to say. Well, because while she was waiting for me, there was a little boy standing next to that old stove, and she goes, "Oh my, you must love coming here working with your mommy," and she went to walk up to him, and the boy vanished. The same thing happened one night when one of the owners got in there. He saw the little boy standing in the dining room, and he's freaking out, going, "Who forgot their kid?" And even worse, why aren't they calling? Well, he said, "Little boy, are you okay?" And the little boy turned around and walked right through the wall. So we got this, Arlene, you hear my wife asking, "Did you fall?" And you're going to hear her giggling in the voice of a little child. And this was in the tap room at 10 at night during one of our investigations.
Did you fall?
Where is that? I can't find the speaker. Yeah. Hang on.
Did you fall?
Oh. Can you hear that? I don't know where the speaker is on this. These modern conveniences.
Did you fall?
Oh well. Yeah. Oh well. Yeah, I'll have it at the table anyway if you want to hear it. This was taken in 2006. You're going to see something get up out of that chair. It's hard to see with this lighting and everything, but something gets up out of the chair, moves across the wall. You can see it moving. Then you see an arm right there in the corner walk by. That's heading towards what was the stables. We tried 1,000 ways to debunk this. I'll have this here at the table also if you want to see it. And we could not debunk it. First of all, the windows are small windows, so it couldn't be a car going by, because then it'd break. And second of all, there's nothing that would do it. And I actually did a show with Jack Osborne, and we had this on the show. Yeah, I know. He said I looked just like his father. Yep. Oh, hang on. In Connecticut, there's a lot of places in Connecticut, but I'm just going to wrap this up quickly. Pomfret, Connecticut is Grill 37. We've actually done some of the things there. And the new owners named it Grill 37. It was called the Harvest Restaurant once. It was Lemuel Grosvenor, who was best friends with Benjamin Franklin. He was the first postmaster from New York to Boston. And he owned this building, so you can tell it's old. And there's a ghost of a child that's seen on the stairs going up near the dining room where there's a fireplace. The tap room, items move, lights go out, things are thrown around. In fact, Debbie, who owns it with her son, her husband's Masonic stuff is in one room, and every time she goes in there, the lights flicker when she enters. And that's a dining room. You can go in there yourself. There was one guy, he came in, he was telling us the story that day. Well, he didn't come in because he won't. But he was delivering stuff. He used to deliver stuff there all the time. And one time he refused to go in. And he's had ever since. And this was like a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. He refused to go in. And she goes, "Well, why don't you bring the stuff in?" He goes, "Can you have someone come and get it?" because he saw a ghost literally walking, pacing back and forth, and he thought it was somebody who was like, okay, I got some deliveries, and when he opened the door, it vanished. Another time, there was another person who was doing some work, a contractor, and while he was talking to Deb, the vacuum cleaner turned on. And he's going, well, it could just be, just be nothing. She goes, I've got the plug in my hand. He never came back. I just love these people, and we don't know who they are, but we've actually investigated it there. We had some cool stuff happen. I'm just going to go over this one more thing. This is funny. That's why. You're going to love it. As we go into Ashland, Connecticut, right off of Route 44, is this cemetery with this small grave. Lucas Douglas, 72 years old, died a pauper, okay, in Ashford, Connecticut, on the streets, died a pauper. So they're going, well, we got the little cemetery, we'll bury him there. And the lawyer goes, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I got something here. Hands in this paper where this guy had saved up every penny he ever had so he could have a 30-foot tall monument, 140-foot stone fence, large urns, and a long thing flanked with 2 rows of hedges, all kinds of stuff. You can see his face in there, all kinds of stuff like that. So the guy died a pauper, but he has like this monument, and you cannot miss it. Okay? I mean, it's 34 feet tall. He died on the streets a pauper. So the funniest thing about that is when you see the monument, you can read and read and read it. It costs like almost $200,000 back in 1890s. So he wasn't that poor. And that just goes to prove you can take it with you. Any questions? Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and like I said, we have the books there. It makes a great road trip, and you can see all the places and all the other places, too. Thank you very much.